How I went from zero to 34,000 followers on LinkedIn. So as you can see from this image, 34,000 followers on LinkedIn. I am proud of that number, but it's very important to understand that number, what it really means, and I guess how you get to that as well, and what impact it makes in your business and your brand. So when I started off on LinkedIn, it was quite early. It was about 2009 roughly. And like everybody else, I just used it for looking for jobs, but also to see what my former colleagues are up to. I guess it's like a business version of Facebook. Um, and I just used it not really properly. Like most people, I had a profile, didn't really do much, didn't really say much until 2018. And the reason everything changed in 2018 was after 23 years working in corporate London and 5 years traveling around the world doing sales, I set up my own business. And the only asset I had at the time was my best-selling book, Everybody Works in Sales. And there's lots of images on LinkedIn, and I'm sure on the internet as well, of my book, Everybody Works in Sales, next to Brian Tracy's. My book next to Richard Branson's Losing Your Virginity. My book next to various people at the Dragon's Den and Shark Tank. My book next to Warren Buffett's. And that was truly an incredible honor. The only difference is their books were in the best-selling chart for many years. My book was in the best-selling chart for weeks. Theirs were years, probably decades in some cases, like Warren Buffett. Mine was just a few weeks. But still, it was in the best-selling chart, and I'm very proud of that. And eventually the royalties ran out. And I went into a major panic because then I had to learn how to run a business. And so naturally, I did what many people do on LinkedIn. I'd go on LinkedIn, I'd promote my business, I'd promote my services, I'd promote my products. And I really wasn't connecting with people. I had about 500 followers, but it really wasn't getting very far. And then 2 years later, everything changed because I went through the trauma of a divorce, which was horrendous. 2 years of my life, I kind of lost doing that, and money as well, and my mind. And then to make things worse, lockdown happened. And I'm an extrovert, okay? I love going to conferences, I love going to networking events, I love going to my rock concerts, I love being around people. So the worst thing you can possibly do is take all that away from me, which is what lockdown did. And of course, the trauma and the events of divorce. And I just wasn't coping well with life. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I'm not abusive. So unfortunately, I ate my feelings, which isn't a great thing to do. I'm not going to say it's better than doing drugs or better than drinking, but it's just what I did. Um, but the results were very obvious. I went from being 14 stone to being almost 20 stone and being diagnosed obese. And with that came a lot of health problems. Um, and I wasn't in a good place. And God bless my parents who said, look, put everything in storage, come back home. Now, I grew up in a small working class town in Northern Ireland called Antrim. It wasn't a great place to grow up. It was a tremendous amount of racism and verbal abuse. It was just horrible. So I've done everything I could in 30 years to avoid going back there. But unfortunately, I had no choice. I was living off bounce back loans and living off credit cards, and things financially weren't looking good. My mental health was terrible. So I had to go back home. I really had no choice. And what I did was on LinkedIn, I wrote about shame. I wrote about embarrassment. I wrote about how I had this great career in London. I'd set my own business up with the trauma of divorce and the trauma of lockdown, and just the struggle of not being near or around people meant I kind of fell very heavily, very fast. You want to know who your friends are in life? Fail fast, fail heavy, and you'll be shocked and surprised and quite disappointed who your friends really are, unfortunately. So that was a good learning lesson as well. I wrote about that on LinkedIn, and the post went huge. Didn't go viral, but it did about 30 to 40,000 views. It got a few hundred comments, and it really got me, I don't want to say recognized, but at least acknowledged by a broader range of people who would normally see my posts. And I was amazed by the number of people who reached out to me, not just publicly in the post, but privately and said, hey, I've been through divorce. I get it. It's horrible. Or you know what? When I got divorced, I had to go live with my mother, or I had to go live with my grandmother, or I had to go live with my parents. And I was amazed by how empathetic and supportive so many people were on LinkedIn. And that was the first big post I did. And all of a sudden, I then started talking quite regularly about the difficulty of just rebuilding your life, but also trying to rebuild a business after lockdown when everything really disappeared for me. And because I wasn't like a lot of people on social media who show off and brag and exaggerate and lie, which a lot of people feel they need to do to get attention. I was the real deal. I was the one who was saying, I pitched for a business and didn't get it, or a client had promised to work with me and they never did, or somebody did work with me and they didn't pay me. That's horrible. And what was interesting was so many people have been through this. And so many people got it. And all I was doing was writing about my own feelings, but everybody was connecting with it in different ways. And all of a sudden, instead of getting a few followers a day, I'm picking up 10 to 20 followers a day. I'm getting 10 to 20 connection requests a day. And my following is getting to 500 to 600 to 700, and it's growing. And there's no doubt that the viral post that I did, the first viral post I ever did, was talking about loneliness in the second lockdown in, I think it was May 2020, the difficulty of trying to form friends, the difficulty of trying to have relationships in a world where people are addicted to their phones, but they don't really put much effort into relationships. And when you're a man in your late 40s after divorce, it's very hard making friends. It's very hard building a life again. It was brutal, especially in a small working class Irish town where everybody kind of knows everybody and people stick to their own kind. And even though I was born and grew up there, I was still seen as an outsider. Even though I didn't think I was an outsider, everybody else thought I was. And also, it was a very strange time as well. So, with the world the way it was. But that post went viral, talking about loneliness. I never expected a post to do 100,000 views and get several hundred comments. And when the next post went viral, because I hadn't seen my daughter in a year, and so many people hadn't seen their kids in a long time, and that post went viral. And then I talked about my father age 77 making a cold call trying to get a hospital appointment. That went viral. And then I started talking a lot about online dating and how online dating is like sales. A good example was I'd be at a restaurant on a Saturday night and I'd be having my meal and the table opposite me was empty because the lady hadn't shown up. And I'd called and there was no response. And it was heartbreaking and it was frustrating and it was embarrassing. But I said, you know what? In sales, sometimes you wait for a client and the client's a no-show on Zoom, or sometimes a no-show in person after you made all that travel and you don't hear from them again. And I related a lot of online dating to sales, and all of a sudden posts are going viral. You're talking 200,000, 300,000 views. You're talking getting 300 to 400 followers in a week. And I had 7 of those posts go viral in the space of 18 months. I'm not going to deny that made a huge part to my growth on LinkedIn in terms of followers. And I do talk about my personal life now and again, but I don't talk about it with scars. I don't talk about the pain, the trauma. I tend to talk about challenges I'm having and how I overcome them. But majority of the time on LinkedIn, I'm sharing sales strategies which help people succeed. I'm sharing sales tips which help people get more meetings. I am guiding people in terms of overcoming imposter syndrome and lack of confidence, which is something I suffered from for many, many years. And LinkedIn gave me a top voice during this period as well, which was I was really deeply moved by. And this came from LinkedIn head office because I wrote with integrity, I wrote with character, and no matter how much I was struggling in my life, I was showing up and helping people. And I was given a LinkedIn top voice badge many years ago, back when having a top voice badge actually meant something. And a lot of people say to me, well, 34,000 followers, you must get business all the time. Well, having 34,000 followers doesn't guarantee business. It's very impressive to observe. And certainly every now and again, I'll win a speaking slot at a business event because someone has seen my following. And every now and again, somebody will hire me as their coach because they look at my following and go, wow, that's really impressive. But it's only every now and again. And you can't run a business based on every now and again. You just can't do that. And of the 34,000 followers I have, I only really speak to 0.5% a month. 0.5%. That is about 150, 200 people a month at the most I speak to. And I have great conversations with them. They buy my books, they'll buy my courses, they're my support, they're my network. They're fantastic. But that's it. It's a very small number. Now, what about the other people? Well, of 34,000 followers, only about 20% of people see your feed on LinkedIn, which is LinkedIn's fault, by the way. It's nobody else's fault, which means only 7,000 people really see my posts, even though I have 34,000 followers. And those rest of those 7,000, I would call lurkers or observers, people who see what you're doing on LinkedIn. And sometimes they follow you for 6 months before getting in touch. Sometimes they follow you for a year. Recently, I did business with a woman who spent 2 years following my LinkedIn content before reaching out. So please bear in mind, even though the 0.5% is my audience and they're the ones I speak to, it often takes people 6 months, a year, sometimes 2 years or longer to feel safe enough to want to reach out to you, quite often because I've had bad experiences in the past. But that is how I went from 0 to 34,000 followers. I did have some posts go viral. I'm not going to deny that was a bit of luck. Getting a LinkedIn top voice badge certainly helped. But talking about my personal story and sharing my vulnerability and sharing the challenges I was going through in life, but more importantly, how to overcome those, made a big difference. It helped people build trust in me, and that trust helped me win more business and build one-to-one personalized coaching, and every now and again get hired for LinkedIn group training and speaking at events. If this has been useful, please like and subscribe, because every single week I'm uploading brand new videos on sales to help you overcome imposter syndrome, to help you with confidence, to help you overcome the ick in sales, to help you book more meetings, to help you convert more sales, and to help you build your pipeline and just enjoy sales more. I'm also sharing strategies and techniques on LinkedIn and building your brand on LinkedIn, but also how to sell on LinkedIn. Because building your brand on LinkedIn is great, but you have to know how to get incoming inquiries. And you have to know how to convert those inquiries too. So if this has been useful, please comment, please like and comment, but also please subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. Thank you.